Hey everybody, welcome back to theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Again, it's theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Today's going to be a quick, really short video, but it's going to be interesting stuff for your research clinics out there. It's what I learned from a CRA this past week in regards to archiving your study files. So as you know, in every clinical trial, um, there's a beginning and an end. And we talk a lot about the beginning, like startup activities and how to budget for different startup activities and getting people trained, and specifically how it relates to budgeting. But we never really talked that much about closing. And closing is, I wouldn't say just as important, but at least from the uh, concept of just doing clinical research, closeouts are important, and you can lose money if you don't do it the right way. So today I'm going to talk about what I learned from a CRA this past week in regards to retaining your study archives. So most clinics use a vendor, like my clinic uses Iron Mountain. So we ship all of our study archives, all the study files from a particular protocol. We keep them on site for about 6 months just to tie up any loose ends. And once the closeout visit's over, answer remaining queries. There's always things that come up even after a closeout visit, which is actually a good topic for another video. But just because you had a closeout visit doesn't mean you're done answering questions for that particular study. I'm still doing this right now for several of my trials. We've had our closeout visits months ago, and I'm still going back and answering not queries in the EDC, but like they fax or email queries, and you have to get back to them. So keeping your archive. So after those 6 months, after your closeout visit, you want to send your documents to Iron Mountain. Now look in your contract, because some contracts state specifically how long you need to keep the records. Usually it's 5 years, although lately I've been seeing 10, 20 years. And the sponsors, this is what I learned from the CRA the other day. Sponsors will not take records back just because you're requesting for them to take them back. Okay, they will take them back under two conditions. Usually, and it's for the same reason that we don't want to keep them as the research clinics. If there's an audit, they have to get the files and have to present them to the FDA themselves, and they don't have the storage necessarily for it either. So under two conditions, they will take it back. Number one, the PI has retired or died, which happens, and number two is the company is going out of business. So those are the only two scenarios where the sponsor will take back the study documents. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this monitor is not aware of another option, but it usually does depend on each case. It's on a case by case basis. It doesn't hurt to ask, but you should have a good reason. And so that's one thing. And first of all, you have to know how long you're required to keep your records. Is it 5 years? Is it 10 years? Is it 20 years? Is it indefinite? And for those ones where it's indefinite, that's where you have a lot of the gray area. Because you definitely don't want to be stuck holding onto these records for the rest of your life. You want to either be able to give them back to the sponsor at some point or destroy them at some point. And Iron Mountain does that. They do the shredding and the document destruction services as well. I have no affiliation with Iron Mountain. I've just used them, and they're pretty good. So that's what I learned this week from a CRA in regards to archiving. And by the way, negotiating your budget. Look at how long they want you to keep the records, and make sure you're getting reimbursed for the amount of time that you're going to be paying for those records. So if it's 10 years or if it's 20 years that you're required to keep the records, make sure you know that when you're negotiating the budget up front, because you don't want to get stuck with a bill for the next 20 years. And who knows, maybe your site is not doing research anymore. Maybe they're doing something else. Do you still want to be stuck with those records and fixed cost? So it's best to try to negotiate it up front and then find a way to have the sponsor perhaps take their records back. It's worth a shot. I'm in the middle of doing this now for several studies. They've been closed out since 2006. So all those 5 year, 6 year, 7 year, even 10 year, coming on 10 years soon, record retention requirement. I'm going to be calling the sponsors and saying, hey, do you want your records back or do you want me to destroy them? Hopefully this helps. Let me know if you have any other questions and stay tuned for more videos on theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Take care.